So I have to say thank you for staying. It's quite late on a Friday night, and traffic in Dublin is terrible, so thank you very much. So I won't keep you. I just want to talk to you about the next generation of buildings, kind of cognitive buildings, and what that means, and where we're going with that. So Ginny Rometty, and for those people who don't know Ginny Rometty, she's the CEO and chair of IBM, has a statement around AI. So AI is going to change 100% of jobs in 100% of industries and 100% of professions. But it's not a technology issue, okay? This is about a change management issue, and it's about how people do their work, how we deliver their work. And so why do I put that chart up here today in front of a team, a group of facility management people? That's because you are included in that, okay? Your jobs are going to be affected. And you shouldn't be running for the hills here. You shouldn't be scared, curling up in a little ball and being scared of this. You should embrace it, because this is going to make your jobs easier. Okay? And when we say AI, I mean AI can be artificial intelligence, it can be augmented intelligence, it can be autonomous intelligence. It's about taking out the drudge. And yesterday, first thing in the morning, there was a young guy stood up here and he was talking about his job, and how he referred to himself as being lazy. But actually, his job that was given to him was really quite boring, right? It was spreadsheet driven. It was like reviewing reports. It's that kind of role. And he came up with a solution, a technology solution all by himself to automate that, to make it much more easy, to make it a streamless process that took a click of a button and an hour or so to resolve. That's what we're talking about. If your job is surrounded by spreadsheets, it's about taking that drudgery away and making it much easier. So if we take that from the personal level, from us as FM professionals, into the building itself, and we think about the data revolution within buildings, data by itself is absolutely useless, right? It's not going to tell you anything. As Michael Pitt said earlier on, people are collecting data to have it, which is brilliant, right? Because if you don't collect it, then it's gone, disappeared, and you've lost it. But just data by itself isn't going to tell you a thing. And if you think about where we've come in terms of the building and the built environment, we've been collecting data for a very long time. We started, probably before 1980 with automated buildings. And during that, turning things on and off, with the onset of BAS systems, we start to collect data, and you can see my little database there, starting to fill up with data. But this data has been in siloed systems for a long time. If we fast forward to kind of 2000, 2015, and we start to then have this concept of smart buildings. And what did that mean? Well, that meant actually not just talking to one piece of equipment, but being able to pull information from many different pieces of equipment, many different systems in the building, and start to understand what was going on. So collecting data, maybe writing fault detection, diagnosis rules, condition-based maintenance. If this and this happens over a period of time, let me know, and then I can go and do something about it. Brilliant. Saved a huge amount of money. We did this in about 2008. I worked with some really smart people in IBM here in Ireland, and we were able to take data from the assets via the BMS system, write these rules, understand what was going on. We did it for energy. We did it as an energy management project. Actually, the gains came from planned preventative maintenance, shortening the amount of hours it took to do planned preventative maintenance, and also reactive maintenance. We were able to pick up on things before they broke, right? Saved a fortune. But we were focused in at the building level, okay, at the assets within a building. You have to be an expert to write these rules. You have to know that there's a problem. You have to know what rule to write. If you make any change at all, if you change out the HVAC system, if you change the parts, you might have to go back in and rewrite that rule. Okay? So while very valuable, saved a huge amount of money, it's not massively scalable. Okay? Now, if we fast forward to this kind of cognitive building era, and I don't know about you guys, but certainly in IBM, if you stand still long enough, you will have a sensor attached to you, right? So, be it a humidity sensor, a CO2 sensor, a temperature sensor, a presence sensor, everything. We're really excited about this space. But the amount of data, as you can see here in the database, is growing exponential, right? So how do we deal with this explosion of data, this volume of data? Well, if I go back to my fault detection rules, yes, absolutely, you can use that, but it's going to take you a long time to figure out what the problems are, write the rules, change the rules, do that iteration. Also, how do you bring in the extraneous variables, so the weather information? How do you get real-time weather data impacted in that? How do you bring in calendar events? How do you change quickly, be much more agile? The traditional methods are not going to work. So this is when you bring in AI and machine learning. And what is AI and machine learning? Well, it has to be very scalable, very fast way to analyze data that gives you insight in a way that is usable. Okay, with some human kind of interaction. Otherwise, again, it's useless. So if you can't interact with that data, visualize that data, and be able to do something with that information, then it's not worth anything. So that's what AI is. It has to have this human element to enable you to make the changes, to give you insight into that data. So what is this about, really? So what is the journey that we should all be thinking about, that we should be going on? Well, you can talk about AI, and you can talk about sensors, and you can talk about all of that great stuff. For example, I visit quite a few people outside of IBM, and they say, I want a really smart building. And I say, why? And they go, you tell me why. I say, well, I can give you 200 reasons why you want a smart building, but does that fit with your business? You know, is that what you actually want? So operational excellence is the bread and butter of everybody in this room. Okay, this is your mainstay. This is what you absolutely do. It's table stakes. You have to have your operations running effectively, because there's no point looking at a smart building if the HVAC system is about to fall over, if, you know, the lighting system, if half the bulbs are missing, you know, if the floor is dirty, you know, you've got to have your operational excellence. So that back office function cannot be forgotten. Yes, we can use AI to make it more efficient, to make it more sexy, exciting, but we cannot forget that. That metadata, that information that those systems hold is key, right? We need that. We need to build on it. Then we can start to look at the smart building. So, okay, you know, we take one building maybe, you know, find, you know, pilot, iterate, then scale and find out, you know, what's going on so we can drive efficiencies at the building level. But why are we doing this? Why bother? Okay? Why? It's for the user. And we've forgotten about this. Well, I don't think so in the FM space, to be honest. I take that back. Outside of the FM space, we forget. I mean, we were talking about construction earlier, okay? They don't care who's going to use the building. The brief is build the building. We built it. There you go, right? The end user experience, and when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about you and I when we're sat at our desk or on our sofa or wherever we're working, our experience of that building. That's why we're doing this, for the people. And I saw on the chart up there yesterday, how can we retain top talent? How can we encourage people, you know, to stay? And we are the facilitators of this. Having a fantastic workplace is cited as one of the best reasons for somebody to take a job in a company and then to stay in a company. So having that end user experience is exactly why we're doing it. And if we peel back the onion, all the data that we have available to us, we can democratize that data. We can put that into the hands of the end users of the building. So if we've got space data and we've got presence sensing, when we're doing that to ensure that we've got the right amount of space that's in the right, corrected format, that we have the right size of meeting rooms, why not put that into the hands, and I know most of you are doing this, but as an example, put that into the hands of the people who are entering the building. Okay, so I walk into the building, it's agile, we're hot desking, nobody has an office, nobody has assigned seating. How do I find a place to sit quickly? Well, you give me this information, I can find where there's a free desk, I can ask, I can understand whether somebody normally sits there because I kind of don't want any confrontation. The system can tell me very quickly, go over there, that's a free desk, it's yours for the day, book it. So boom, I can book it, or with my app or whatever it is I'm using. But then we can get into personalization of space. This is another place that we're talking about, is around how GDPR, we have to be conscious of that. But how do I walk into a space and it knows instantly who I am, what conditions I work best under? So it knows that I'm working on a project and I've actually got to really concentrate today because my deadline is in a week's time and I've got a lot of work to do. So it directs me to a space that's calm, that's quiet, that has enough natural light and the correct temperature for me to work at my best. At the end of the day, it's about the users of the buildings and making us as productive as we possibly can while we're in work. Because if you think about today's environment, I know hands up sometimes in IBM real estate as well, you can walk in and you go, oh, it's too hot, oh, it's too cold, oh, it's a bit dark in here. When I'm thinking those thoughts, I'm not doing what IBM are paying me to do. I'm bitching and moaning, right? We all know this. Nobody cares when it's good. They only care when it's not very good. So it's about putting tools and capabilities into people's hands to make the end user experience one that's really good. So when you're thinking about AI, and the journeys and the digitizations, there's some things to remember, okay? Don't be afraid. Embrace the technology that's there. Give it a go. Try it. Just pilot it. See if it works for you. See if it works for your business. You know your business is best, right? You know what works. You know what people will accept. In IBM, we want to use these presence sensors that have a camera in them, right? That's not going to work in Germany. Full stop. Forget it. End of conversation. Camera in an office, no. Right? But it works in Dublin. We have it in Dublin. Nobody minds, Guesses your age a little bit wrong sometimes. It does some demographic information. But, it's okay. It tells us when the gym is full, when the gym's empty. It's really useful. But you just try it. Embrace that technology. Now, AI, there's a big unknown known. I mean, it's something that people don't talk about. Okay? People train AI models. Okay, we all have bias, be it conscious or unconscious bias. We can't help it. So when you're doing anything with AI, anything with machine learning, you really must control the bias. And there's a great lady whose surname I couldn't even begin to pronounce, but Joy is her first name. And she's part of the Algorithmic Justice League in MIT. You should look her up, and her surname begins with B, but if you put in Algorithmic Justice League, it'll come up. And she's a black lady, and when she tested facial recognition, she didn't exist. Didn't recognize her as even a human being, never mind her gender or anything. Why? Why was this? And it was every single facial recognition technology on the market, including IBM's. And it was because white men, American white men sitting in labs, had trained the AI behind this facial recognition. So, of course, when you were female and when you didn't have white skin, it didn't recognize you. So she contacted everybody and that was sorted out. But it's that's one example. So you have to be careful of bias when you're using and training AI models. The other thing is empower the people, right? People are the best resource here. Listen, understand, test it, bring people on the journey. Don't allow people to be afraid. Another example I have of this is a really fantastic client of ours was trying out some presence sensing, and it was under-desk sensors. And you couldn't really see the under-desk sensors. They were all energy harvesting. They weren't wired in. It was all working really well until one day a colleague went, "What's that on the wall? What's that?" And ripped it off the wall, right? This piece of equipment, and it was the gateway for the sensors. Thought it was some camera, hadn't been told. Of course, the dashboard went down, and it was like, oh my God, what's happened over there? It's because they didn't bring people on the journey. Embrace the people. They've got good ideas. Allow them to test, use, play with stuff. Give them a sandpit to play in. And the future. So why would we do this, okay? Well, when you start to understand the building and understand how the building is operating and performing based on the weather, based on the time of day, based on the teams in it, you start to feed that back into the design. You start to get a better design, right? You can start to iterate on the original design. You can have better maintenance regimes. You can really understand what's going on. You can have this personalization of space and enhanced experiences. People feel that any technology gives them a better experience, and there's quite a bit of research on this in the retail space. When people go into a retail store that has some tech, even though it's exactly the same as a retail store with no tech, they feel they've had a better experience. So personalization of space and a better experience. You can get autonomous control, so you start to control the systems, by themselves. We have a machine learning algorithm that tells the BMS exactly the right time every single day to do pre-cooling, right? So it's not time-based or date-based, it's actual changes every single day. And then you can really start to understand the full knowledge of the real-time life cycle costs of the building. And ultimately, what we're all in the business about is trying to reduce the costs and then also potentially increase profits. And that's me. Thank you.